Namaste. Thank you for joining me. In this short lesson, I'm going to address why there are different forms of the pronoun you in Hindi. This video will provide some helpful background before you dive into Hindi grammar. I'm Samta Varya, the founder and CEO of Virtual Preschool. I created this company to address the growing need for fun conversational Hindi classes that are designed for children growing up with English as their first language. And I create short videos about Hindi language and culture to share with the community. So let's get started with understanding you in Hindi. In English, there was one pronoun called you. We say, how are you? Whether we're talking to someone who is younger, the same age, or older than us. But in Hindi, this pronoun takes three forms. There's intimate, familiar, and formal. What that means is in Hindi, there's a distinction in how to address people based on your relationship with them and your relationship relative to them. Your relationship with someone is how well you know them. Intimate means your bestie and siblings. Familiar would be a person at school that you talk to once in a while. And formal is for strangers, people whom you don't know, and people whom you've never met. Your relationship relative to someone is based on your age. How you'd address someone younger, the same age, or older than you varies in Hindi. Using these three different forms of you are a way to show respect to signify differences in relationships within families and communities using language. So what are the three forms of you in Hindi? The intimate form of you is tu. So to say, how are you? In the intimate form, you'd say, tu kaise ho? The familiar form of you is tum. So it's tu with a ma at the end, tum. So how to say how are you would be tum kaise ho? And the formal form of you is aap. How are you would be aap kaise hain? Why are there three forms of you in Hindi? Again, in English, we have one you, and we use that for everything. Well, the reason why derives directly from Indian culture. Indian society revolves around families and communities. And actually, that's true for many Eastern cultures. Indian culture makes clear distinctions between family and people that are younger than you, people that are in the same age group as you, and people that are older than you, in addition to people that you know well versus acquaintances and strangers. That means there are societal expectations and norms around how to talk to elders, how to talk to friends, family members, and strangers. This aspect of Indian culture in Hindi is very interesting, but it's also a kind of a lot to take on and to understand for someone that's just starting to learn Hindi. And for someone who is not growing up in India, there are limited use cases for these various forms of you. So for my students, the primary use case is to learn their heritage and be able to talk to relatives, since I focus on teaching students who are growing up outside of India. So for my beginner students, I focus on one form of you only, the formal you, which is aap. Aap is universal, it's respectful, and it's formal. You'll never go wrong with saying aap to someone, whether you're addressing someone who's older, younger, a friend, or a new acquaintance. So I prefer to teach the formal you only at first. And as my students get more advanced, I teach them the other forms of you in Hindi as well. Dhanyavad, and thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful in providing some background on what and why the different forms of you exist in Hindi. And if you're interested in fun conversational Hindi classes for children, please visit our website at virtualpreschool.com. All my best wishes on your Hindi learning journey.